What is going on, Nuggets Nation, NBA fans? My name is Tom Leuthner. Welcome back to Nuggets Today, presented by Fan Art. We got some topics to cover. I know there's not a lot going on right now in free agency, so I sort of wanted to move on from the free agent topics and the trades, and that's something I'm going to get into, obviously, throughout the entire offseason, right until, I guess, the beginning of the season. But there's some things that I wanted to talk about, some fun topics, I guess, and the first topic I want to bring up is something I've seen here and there on social media, but at the same time, it's something that I'm genuinely curious about. I saw a post and it said, if you could bring back one Nugget legend to play on this current roster, who would it be? Salary cap does not matter for that one player. Now, I wanted to be realistic. I know I could say a guy like Carmelo Anthony, obviously. I could say a guy like, Dikembe Mutombo to back up Jokic or play alongside. There's all these guys that you could say. You could say, I mean, listen to anybody, I guess, in the organization's history. But in my lifetime, there's one guy that I thought about that would fit this team pretty well as a backup point guard. And I don't know why my mind was so stuck on Ty Lawson. Now, he's not the best player in Nuggets history. He's not close to the best player in Nuggets history. But something about the nostalgia of having a guy like Ty Lawson on the roster really just stood out to me. It was something that I was just like, yeah, backup point guard. Maybe I was thinking Andre Miller a little bit. I was thinking Jameer Nelson. But if I could think of one star player for the Nuggets team, he was technically a star at that point. I think it would be Ty Lawson. The other guy I thought about was Danilo, strictly because, how could you not want Danilo back? He was great. He back up small forward, power forward. Somebody who towards the end of his career actually wanted back on the Nuggets after his little stint on the Hawks when they pushed the Eastern Conference Finals. I know he dealt with a lot of injuries towards the end of his career, even the middle of his career. But I think that my main choice would be Ty Lawson. My second choice would be, I think, Danilo. And obviously, if you're looking at superstars or all-stars and the most unrealistic things in the world, I guess I would go Carmelo, maybe Iguodala, maybe Dikembe, David Thompson. There's Fat Lever. There's just unlimited names. But like I said, the most realistic, and to me, something that just stuck out to me was the fact that Ty Lawson would be a great backup point guard for this Denver Nuggets team. Now, the next thing I want to bring up is something talking about former, Denver Nuggets employees. Is Coach Mike Malone has officially worked out a deal and will be joining ESPN as a full-time analyst. And I am so happy for him. I think that it really is great to see him being able to move on and do something to stay in basketball. I think that he was great. I know that he, during the playoffs, he dealt with his hate for saying certain things about Nikola Jokic. And, there might have been a little animosity with him and the organization strictly because they let go of him right before a playoff run where Denver was able to push 7 games against the team that won the NBA Finals with a roster that wasn't even relatively healthy. So I understand where, I guess, he was coming from. I understand where Denver was sort of coming from, getting rid of him just because there was too much tension between him and Calvin Booth. And Denver needed to rebrand. And I think that's something that was, worked out on both sides. And like I said, I'm happy to see that he still is staying in basketball in the NBA at that. And I think that he would have worked as a coach in certain situations. I actually would have, like I said, being from New York, him being from New York, him being the coach of the team that, that I love, especially during a championship run. I would have loved to see him coach the Knicks strictly because I think the Knicks have a roster to push a championship, especially in a weaker Eastern Conference. And I would have loved to see Mike Malone push another NBA Finals if the Denver Nuggets weren't able to do so, which I think that they have the talent to realistically do this year. But good for Mike Malone for joining the ESPN team. I actually don't like ESPN's crew right now. I think that it's a little dry and not sensible sometimes, but I'm happy to be able to actually watch games now on whatever Nuggets games I guess are aired on ESPN, if any, this year, and being able to hear Mike Malone's breakdown on the Denver Nuggets and just basketball in general. So, like I said, congratulations to Coach Malone. Now, this next thing I want to talk about is the fact that there is a lot of pressure on a specific Nuggets player this year. That player, I think we all know, is Jonas Valanciunas, and I think that not that it's an unfair amount of pressure, but I think that we are looking at Jonas Valanciunas as the best backup center for Nikola Jokic ever. Now, DeMarcus Cousins was a good backup. We knew that. Mason Plumlee was a viable backup when he was on Denver. He was a guy that worked. He was a guy that was able to play. You look at this last year, Dario Saric. You look at 2 years ago when they won a finals, and DeAndre Jordan. And I mean, those guys aren't anything. Like DeAndre was there last year. He was incapable of grabbing a rebound. Jeff Green played the backup five for Denver at times, and it worked out because Jeff Green is an athletic freak for no reason whatsoever who can actually shoot the ball and play a good role. Like I said, I think you look at the most valuable backup for Jokic, and I want to say throughout the years, I know it was DeMarcus Cousins, but I want to say Mason Plumlee. I feel like Plumlee, had a great role as a backup center in Denver. He's a guy who I mean, did legitimately everything off the bench. He had, actually semi-decent ball handling. But he's a guy who was able to pass. He was able to keep that point center position, not as well as Jokic, obviously, but a guy that you could give the ball to in the high post, and he's going to make a pass to continue to run your offense as the center, which Jokic was great at. Like DeMarcus Cousins, Denver got him at a time where he was sort of washed up, but I wouldn't have minded. I wouldn't have minded, I guess, having him as a backup center for another year or two if Denver was able to get it. But I believe at the time he was asking for more money, so it didn't work out. So there's a lot riding on Big Val being the center that we all think he can be, especially with how well he just played in Eurobasket. He's a guy who's supposed to be this good of a backup center. He was actually a guy who I was very high on as a starting center a few years ago when he was on that Pelicans roster. I think that he was taking them to the next level as a starting center. I think that he's probably, like I've continued to say, top 5 backup centers in the NBA, but he also has the ability to make Denver sort of stink this year, like their bench unit at least, if he can't play up to the level that we all think. I don't think that he will be a Dario Saric, and I hope that he won't be, but like I said, I think that he has the opportunity to, if he's not good, that really hurts Denver's bench unit, and I think that there's a lot riding on Big Val. This last topic I want to talk about is just the Western Conference in general. And I was doing, some research and looking back at all the losses in the Western Conference, and I was thinking about what the biggest loss for any team really is. And I know you could just say it's Kevin Durant, right? It's Kevin Durant on the Phoenix Suns, but I was thinking teams that made the playoffs last year, teams that pushed, and obviously there were teams like, the Trailblazers who lose a guy like DeAndre Ayton. There's guys like the Grizzlies who lose a guy like Desmond Bane. Like there's a lot of players out there who made a difference. But the one thing I want to say with a playoff team, I think that the Timberwolves losing Nickeil Alexander-Walker is a massive loss for them. I think that you look at, let's say, right, the Grizzlies, they lose Desmond Bane, but you bring in Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and you're fine. I mean, it's not like he's the best guy in the world, but he's a shooter. He's a guy who can play that starting shooting guard position and still be effective for you guys. You look at what the Timberwolves bench was with Naw, and they were massive. I mean, there was times where he's starting in the lineup, and he's a very, very good starter, and now you're losing depth with him. He's a great defender. Not to say McDaniels isn't. Dante's still there to play offense, but this is a guy who did legitimately everything for you. He clamped up your best guard, and he's still hitting threes from the corner. And there was times where I feel like he was putting up 15, 20 points, not per game, but there were stretches. So I think that is the biggest loss to an actual contender. I don't think that there's other major losses. I mean, the Rockets, they lose Jalen Green. The Warriors lose Kuminga. So Kayvon Looney, not Kuminga, sorry. Kayvon Looney, who I guess you lose some veteran leadership there, but then you also have Draymond, Jimmy, and Steph. So I don't know. I mean, Denver Nuggets losing MPJ isn't the biggest thing in the world. The Thunder didn't lose anybody massive. So I think that the biggest loss for this Western Conference team, or the Western Conference in general, was Nickeil Alexander-Walker leaving the Minnesota Timberwolves. If you guys agree, let me know down below. If not, let me know who you guys think is the biggest loss in the Western Conference this year. Also, let me know which Denver Nugget player you would bring back for this current roster. That is all I got for you guys today. I'll catch you guys next episode. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button.